Hi everyone, it is Carla the Bubblelush, and Hannah turned 6 months yesterday, and we're going to the doctor for her 6-month checkup tomorrow. So I'll do her update then. So tonight I wanted to do my 6-month breastfeeding update. I don't have a list of things to talk about, and so I'm just going to kind of blurt it out there. And if I say something and don't explain it, or if you have a question, leave it below and I'll address all the questions below and the questions from my pumping at work in my breastfeeding Q&A, which I hope to do later this week. Okay? Deal? Deal. So, making it to 6 months is a huge milestone considering the rocky start we got off to. For those of you that don't know, Hannah was born at 42 weeks. I got really sick during labor, and it was an emergency C-section, and since I had an infection of my cervical fluid, no, that's gross, what's the word? Amniotic fluid, not my cervical fluid, amniotic fluid. That's a big blooper and I'm just gonna leave that in. We're just gonna keep rolling with it. Anyway, since I had an infection of my amniotic fluid, Hannah had to go to the NICU. So we missed those that first day of bonding, and they gave her formula. I pumped while I was in the hospital very unsuccessfully. I mean, to the point where you're pumping for half an hour, 45 minutes, and then you're having to open up the pump and use a suction, like a little tubing thing, like a syringe, and suction droplets of milk off the membrane of your pump because that's all you got. So it was just really disheartening. I remember Hannah's 2-week checkup, driving home and just feeling so defeated with breastfeeding and telling Chris, you know, maybe if I just pump and give her a bottle, I'm just gonna have to be okay with that because breastfeeding is too hard. And slowly, her latch improved and her suction improved, and you know, we were able to breastfeed successfully. And it was just, you know, adding kind of one feeding at the breast each day, and we just increased until she was really full-time at the breast, and then I went back to work, you know. So looking back, I think that a lot of the problems, 1, had to do with my supply, and 2 had to do with her frenulum, because she just doesn't have a good latch. She still doesn't have really all that great of a latch. She rounds her upper lip in instead of flanging it out, and to make up for that, she has a really strong suck. So when you combine a not so great latch and a really strong suck, days like today where she just was a clingy hot mess and wanted to be at the breast all day, I am extremely raw now. Like, my nipples hurt. But that's just something that we deal with. So I went back to work when Hannah was 7 weeks old, 9 weeks old, 7 weeks old, I think, maybe 9, whatever. I work 3 days a week. I pump usually 5 times a day on the days that I work, and the 4 days a week that I don't work, that I'm home, I really exclusively just breastfeed. I breastfeed on demand, and if my breasts feel full and she's napping, or she just nursed off one side, then I use a hand pump on the other side. I rarely bust out my you know, nice big expensive double pump on the weekends, because I just kind of refuse to. I use it so much during my work week that I just don't want to use it on my weekend. Let's see. What else do I want to talk about? Oh, building a freezer stash. Back when I was home on maternity leave, I built up a pretty good stash. What I would do was I was pumping overnight. Every time she woke up, she would only feed on one side. So as soon as she was done feeding, I'd put her back down in her Moses basket and then pump the other side. And then the next feeding, she would pump off. She would eat off the side that I pumped, and then I would pump the other side. You know, so we'd go back and forth. And when I'd wake up in the morning, I had collected like at least 5 ounces. So every morning I was freezing a 5-ounce bag of milk. at least. And so I built up a really good freezer stash. But then when I went back to work, I had to sleep. You know, I couldn't make up for the fact that I was waking up every 2 hours by sleeping in until 10. I was waking up at 4:30. So I forfeited the overnight feeds, which means that I really haven't added anything to the freezer stash since going back to work. And I have had to pump what she needs to eat the next day. I have to, or I have to raid my freezer stash kind of thing. And every time I bust into my freezer stash, I just feel like such a failure. So even though that's what it's there for, right? So I've been constantly battling with supply issues, and you know, I hear women complaining about having an oversupply, and I just wish they would stop. I'm sure it sucks having to pump all the time, but the constant stress of worrying whether or not you're going to make enough that day for your baby to eat, I guarantee you it is more stressful than having too much milk. I would love to have too much milk. I'd love to have to pump a gallon at every setting, like, you know, damn. I don't know, so I don't get that. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but I swear when I'm at work, if I have a really bad pumping session, I'm a total stress ball until the next pumping session, and I'll stay out there the full 20 minutes and, you know, pump it, kind of, you know, turn it up to 11 kind of thing, because I know how much I need to bring home every night in order for Hannah to have enough bottles for the next day. You know, that's my job. My job is to feed her. So breastfeeding, I find, it's just really stressful. It's more stressful than I thought. It's a lot of pressure, but at the same time, it is so satisfying to know that, you know, every little chubby roll on her thigh is because either because I made the breast milk that she ate, or I, you know, hand pureed the baby food that she ate, kind of thing. So I just feel responsible for the fact that she is growing so strong, and you know, every time she is crawling around in like just a diaper and she looks over at me and she has like little ripples of chub on her back. She's not that heavy, but she does have little kind of Shar-Pei rolls, and I'm very, very proud of that. So that makes it worth it to me. That being said, we made it to 6 months, and ideally I would love to make it to a year. I don't really see any reason why I would choose to stop. My goal is to not have to supplement. And again, I don't have anything against formula. If I need to use it, I will. But I mean, I think that everyone would, if you're breastfeeding, you know, ideally you don't want to have issues with supply. That's just kind of a no-brainer. So hopefully my supply, I can keep it up. And I do that by, I eat oatmeal at work. When the 3 o'clock slump rolls around and I really just want a candy bar or a cookie, I have oatmeal. And I put like some brown sugar and some pecans on it. And that's kind of like my really sweet, you know, snack. It satisfies my sweet tooth. So I have oatmeal. I also have the mother's milk tea. And if you want to know more about that, just Google mother's milk tea. So I have that. I am not very good about taking fenugreek because I hate swallowing pills. I don't mind smelling like maple syrup, but I just hate swallowing pills. So when my supply has gotten really low before, I've taken the fenugreek and it does help, but really just increasing water, pumping more often, that I find helps the most, obviously. Let's see what else is going on. Oh, I never knew before if I was going to like pump in public, how I was going to handle that, if I just pump beforehand and give her bottles. In some ways, I think that Chris has it so easy because on his day of daddy daycare, if he chooses to like go out to the store, he's already got all his bottles in the fridge, so he just takes the bottle with him. But to me, when it's my weekend, I have to decide, like, am I comfortable with pumping her in public, you know, depending on where I'm going, or do I want to take the time now and pump and then give her a bottle and then, but maybe be engorged by the time I get home, like, so it's just kind of something I have to think about. Sorry, my washer dryer is beeping in the background. But it's like every week at church, I have to nurse her during the service. The people must be like, can't she feed her kid before she comes to church? But she wakes up and, you know, halfway through, right about the time the sermon starts, she wants to nurse. So just throw on my neck dress and nurse her during the sermon. And it works out usually pretty good. She's really, really happy at the end of service and is flirting with everybody as they walk out. So everyone thinks that she's cute. I've nursed her walking around, you know, kind of like a Home Depot type store, and it really is just not that big of a deal to me anymore. I haven't done it like in the middle of like a Target, but yeah, nursing in public isn't that big of a deal. I just throw on the neck dress, or if I have like an open cardigan, I just kind of cover her up with that and hold her. We're using a lot of different positions now because she's kind of distracted and she wants to see what's going on. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll sit on the couch and I'll set a pillow next to me and I'll set her on the pillow facing me. And she just usually kind of, and I kind of scooch down a little bit, and she just kind of like lays her arm down and just nurses and lays her arm like on my stomach and just kind of looks up at me, and we talk and she can see over my shoulder, and she really seems to like that position a lot. I guess the latch is really good with her. It's comfortable for her when she's sitting up. I think it's also because lately, past couple weeks, she's been fighting kind of a congestion, post-nasal drip, runny nose, and sitting up like that versus laying down in more of, you know, like a traditional, you know, sitting in the rocking chair, nursing your baby kind of position. That just works better. So this is kind of like, this, what I'm talking about is like the football hold, but she's sitting up more and just kind of leaning on me, I guess. She really likes that position. She's really good about letting me know when she wants to nurse, because I'll be holding her and all of a sudden she'll just start nuzzling my chest, like very frantic, and like she would just like nurse through 5 layers of clothing. She's that way when I get home from work. She barely even like smiles at me. As soon as I take her, she just wants at my chest because I think she's just missed me all day, and that's how we bond. So she's really good about that. I have, you know, she lets me know when she's hungry or when she just wants to nurse. And like I said, she's been really clingy today because she doesn't feel good. And so nursing not only is like our way of bonding, but it's just, since she doesn't take a pacifier, it's what soothes her. Yeah, I think that's kind of about it. You know, breastfeeding is going great. Pumping is tough. I guess that's kind of the way I would sum it up. And you know, we just kind of take it day by day, and I have no intention of weaning her early. She will take the lead, but she says she is nowhere near done breastfeeding. She loves it too much, and I'm really glad that I've been able to breastfeed her this far. So every day is a blessing. Every day is a savings, I guess, because I've looked at formula and it's really expensive, and I'm glad that we don't have to spend that. I guess the stress that I put in every day pumping at work, it's worth it, you know, because formula is really expensive. I do not envy families that have to buy formula, because that's a big expense. So anyway, again, you know, anytime you do a breastfeeding video, I don't want to ruffle any feathers. Like I said, I'm not anti-formula. If I needed to, I would feed her formula, and she's had formula in the past. It's not that. And I know that there's a lot of mothers that have had harder times breastfeeding than I have, but you know, this is my experience and I'm here to share it. And so I just want anyone that is having a hard time breastfeeding or pumping to know that, you know, I'm here and I find it hard as well, and I find it challenging. So